So, how do you work with fear and stress energy, especially when it comes to your job and the things that you have to do in your day-to-day life? This is a question that came to us on our Patreon page, so thank you very much for the question. I'm going to take this one on because I have personal experience firsthand of what it's like to be in a rush energy and a fear energy within who you are at work. And also I can talk about the short-term and the long-term effects of what happens when you allow this to continue. So, my story is that not too long ago I was working in an office, and in my position I was a dispatcher. As a dispatcher, I was responsible for overseeing anywhere between 8 to 12 to maybe like 16 drivers who I would have to monitor and check in on and give logistics support to. Basically, that means I would have to sit at my computer for 12 to 14 hours a day, and I would have to track each driver individually, and anytime anything happens, I would have to respond and direct it. I was responsible for making sure deliveries and pickups were done on time, to and from the right locations, routing drivers for traffic, looking at the road conditions, the weather, making sure the drivers are safe, making sure the drivers are getting to their locations correctly and following directions. So it was a job where I was constantly busy. Like, the moment I would sit down and start my day, I pretty much would stay busy until the end of my night. And in this job, in the very beginning, the first few months, I was a wreck. Like, I was so nervous and scared. And because it was such a fast-paced job, when something happens, you don't have time necessarily to stop and ask people what to do. You need to be able to give directions right away, because not just one person's waiting on you. Everyone that's busy working that day is waiting for you and depending on you to have the answer. So in that environment, I would go into my work days with this rush, this point of like, I'm going to get it all done. I'm going to be on top of it. And anytime something happens, I would go into this like, boom, 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 make the call, get it done. I'd have 2 or 3 phones, ringing at the same time, trying to take care of everybody at the same time. And not that that can't be done, but who was I within that? Who I was within that was fear. And a point of kind of relying on me going into that personality, relying on me going into that mode of, I can get it all done, let's just hunker down and push and work hard and don't take any breaks and stay on top of everything. I relied on going into that energy instead of slowing down. And slowing down seemed like such a counterintuitive thing in that environment. Like, what do you mean, slow down? I have so much more to do. I need to speed up. So, because I didn't take that step of slowing down, more and more I would go into work with that fear, with that adrenaline going. It's like, okay, what's going on today? Who do I have driving? What's going on here? What are the issues? What happened last night? What's going on right now with this driver? And I would go into more and more of an adrenaline point, like, in a way, getting addicted to the rush that would come from feeling like overwhelmed. I would kind of become addicted to the rush that would come, that energy of like, I'm nervous, I'm tense, I have no idea what's going on, but part of me would kind of develop this taste for that. Part of me would get used to that, because the fascinating thing is, as long as I was feeling that energy, that rush, I wouldn't go back to that point of feeling like I didn't know what I was doing. I would be able to mask everything just because I felt that rush, that adrenaline of like, yeah, things are going on, things are happening, I'm responding here, I'm doing things. But that was really me hiding and distracting myself from the real, deeper, important questions, which is, why? Why am I feeling this stress? Why am I letting these things get me to such a state where I need to go into so much adrenaline just to do my job? A job that many, many people do that don't necessarily go through that same point of the adrenaline and the fear and the rushing. So when I first started to slow down, I began with literally breathing. I began with, it was just, I remember I would have 2 different phone calls ringing at the same time and watching my drivers and trying to dispatch everything and sending messages on my computer and writing emails all at the same time. And within that, in addition to doing all of that, I added the step of breathing, where I would pay attention to how I was breathing. And yes, right now I'm doing all these things because I need to, but who am I within it can change. I don't need to go into my mind about it, meaning I don't have to go into rush or fear or feeling like I need to overcompensate just because there are aspects of the job that I feel insecure about, or there are certain things about the job that I don't like, and I feel like I have to overcompensate by going into a rush or an energy or a haste just so I can get it done. I was missing so many opportunities to actually look at myself within what I was doing and how I was doing it. So before I started slowing down, I had already noticed that the stress, the fear, the rushing I was going into day in and day out was creating short-term and long-term consequences for me. The short-term consequences was I would be so drained at the end of the night because it felt like this entire day I was just on this roller coaster, up and down, and oh, this happened. Oh, no, now this happened. Now I have to deal with this. Now I have to deal with that. And I would go into my head about it and go into like, this is so stressful. This is overwhelming. Why can't things just go smoothly? Why does this have to happen? And commenting on all of these things in my head while dealing with everything. And I would also feel just not only mentally drained, I would physically just collapse when I got home. And it wasn't like I was doing physical heavy labor. I was quite literally sitting at my desk the entire day. So what was draining me wasn't anything physical, it was emotional. Now, the long-term effect of that was that I started to become very irritable and grouchy, and I wasn't sleeping well, and my appetite started to increase, meaning I would constantly need more food, and I would develop this taste for sugar and caffeine and things that would keep me at that high. And at my desk, I would be just constantly snacking and eating and drinking energy drinks because that was becoming the fuel that would allow me to stay in that rush, in that adrenaline mode. And obviously this led to me gaining a lot of weight and becoming physically rather unhealthy and becoming very sedentary. And I realized that I may not be able to quit the job, but the way that I'm approaching it needs to stop. And so, the way I learned to deal with that was, like I said, to start with being aware with my breathing. Within everything that I was doing, I wasn't changing anything particularly about my job or the things I had to do. What I changed was my ability to slow down within myself, but externally, I would still be doing and multitasking and still be on top of things. What changed was me looking at, why am I going into stress? Because generally I go into stress when I feel like I'm facing something that is a threat to me. And usually I feel like something's a threat to me when I don't understand something, or when I don't know how to address or direct something. So I'll go into a space of I don't know what to do. And in that space of I don't know what to do or how to do it, I'll go into stress. and my body responds by heightening its senses, trying to, in a way, help me out. It's like, oh, you don't know what to do. You might be in danger. So here's more adrenaline. Here's more shallow breathing for you to escape and run away from this perceived danger. So it's not that the stress itself is bad. It's more that you have to look at what's contributing to you going into that state. And for me, it was looking at, okay, what am I fearing? Am I fearing making mistakes? Am I fearing to ask questions because I don't want to appear like a burden or appear like I don't know what I'm doing? But in fact, I didn't know what I was doing. So how I eventually got out of it was a series that started with my breathing, and then that led to me slowing down, and that led to me being willing to ask as many times as I needed to get clarity on the things that I wasn't sure about, and to, when things happen, practice the point of first stabilizing myself so that when I speak, I'm aware of the tone of my voice and how I'm breathing, and within that to not go into that additional layer of like, oh my God, this is happening, oh my God, to just stay here. And the more I did that, the more I realized, okay, yeah, this is a stressful job because of what it entails. It does take a lot out of you. It does require a lot of effort, and it does put you under a lot of, you can call it strain. But who you are within it doesn't have to be chaotic and stressed and rushed. And eventually I developed the ability to keep doing exactly what I'm doing, but within me being able to slow down and work at a pace that I direct, instead of being directed by my fears, my energies, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my addiction to the adrenaline. And I also started to cut down on the energy drinks and the late night fast food runs and all of that, because I didn't need that anymore the more I brought myself back to a stable point, which happened through breathing, and thankfully my ability to look at these points through walking the process with destiny. I was able to map things out quite effectively for myself to see what I was doing to myself. So those are the points I would suggest for you if you can relate to this experience of feeling like you're just all over the place and going into the rush and the anxiety and that kind of adrenaline experience. Long term, not cool. So rather take care of yourself now, and like I say, begin with breathing. And if you'd like additional support, you can check out the Destiny Light process and also reach out to us, and we can give you even more specific tips that you can start to practice. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching.